5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the MCTV Weekly News Update. I'm Emily Crescitelli.
And I'm Jennifer Keene. We've got a lot in store for you today, so let's jump right into today's top story. More than 1 million people in the Northeast still have no power a week after Superstorm Sandy came ashore. The Red Cross has opened 190 shelters along the eastern seaboard, and relief donations continue to pour in. The American Red Cross has taken in nearly $85 million so far. That's more than double the $35 million it had raised through Friday morning. With the money it has received, the Red Cross has been operating shelters and offering food, water, and relief supplies to storm victims. So many homes were destroyed or damaged beyond repair by flooding and fires that the storm claimed at least 110 lives in the United States alone. For many storm victims, where and how to vote Tuesday was not their top concern. They are worried about where they will live the next weeks to months to come. Jason Carroll reports more.
Olympia Boulevard is like many streets in this section of Midland Beach, Staten Island. Most of the homes destroyed. At least 2 people died on this block, an elderly couple who lived in this home. Life here, a struggle for basic necessities, clean water, a place to live.
We have Pampers, wet ones, water or food, anyone?
So it may come as no surprise while the rest of the country is focused on Election Day, now just hours away. That feels like a world away to people like David Kudanatov, who is still trying to recover whatever can be salvaged.
Priority is getting myself reorganized at my home. That's it. Politics has no meaning. Romney, Obama, none of them really matter as of now.
Across the street, Anita McGrath arrives at her home for the first time since evacuating before the storm. It has been condemned. Her cat, Robbie, survived. If she can just coax him out. Voting and politics will have to wait for her too. There are more pressing priorities.
Someplace else to live, I guess. But as long as me and my family's okay, I don't care about anything else. I'm sorry.
Numbers are not in yet. Officials are still counting those displaced by the storm.
Thank God we got our lives. That's the important thing.
Milton Haber will be included in that official number.
It's devastating. And, I'm retired from the EMS. I have been through a lot of disasters, but when it happens to you, it's totally different.
Despite losing his home, the cleanup for him is not yet underway. Instead, meetings with FEMA taking up much of his day. Despite it all, Haber says he will not let the election pass him by.
I'm going to go vote.
You are still going to go
Yeah,
vote?
it's an American thing to do.
After so much has been taken from the people of Staten Island, feeling powerless in the wake of Hurricane Sandy, for some, casting a vote gives them a sense of empowerment, even if it's a small one.
I'm voting. I'm going to work tomorrow.
Going to work, casting a vote, things many take for granted, but not here. Jason Carroll, CNN, Staten Island, New York.
Construction crews are back to work at the World Trade Center site. A week after Superstorm Sandy slammed into New York Governor Andrew Cuomo made an announcement Monday in a news release. The governor said 750 construction workers are returning to the site at Ground Zero. The 16-acre site flooded with Sandy's storm surge last week. Most of the water has been since pumped out. The governor said crews have also removed approximately 7 feet of water from the flooded National September 11th Memorial and Museum at Ground Zero.
Box offices all around Times Square took a major financial blow as Hurricane Sandy's torrential wind and rain pummeled Midtown Manhattan last week. The Broadway League, an organization comprised on the industry's owners and managers, reported losses of over $6 million from the previous week. One of the worst affected shows, Nice Work If You Can Get It, lost over $500,000. 40 individual performances were closed through Monday through Wednesday. Broadway reopened its doors last Thursday for regular business. Broadway producer Barry Weisler remarked that, quote, "Storms will not stop us. It is one of the oldest art forms known to man, and it will continue." Although some theater lobbies currently serve victims of Superstorm Sandy, citygoers can again enjoy the many live productions Broadway has to offer.
People affected by Sandy in New York and New Jersey are causing gas shortages in Connecticut, several gas stations have reported. Some station owners say that they are running out of gas because drivers are coming across the border for fuel. Stations along Interstate 95 report an increase of out-of-state drivers looking for gas. Employees at a station in Norwalk also say they have sold 3 times the amount of gas they usually sell out in one day in only 12 hours. Have you seen some of the lines down the highway looking for gas? Like, it's unbelievable.
I haven't seen them, but I've heard that they go on for miles. It's crazy.
They really do. Can you imagine having to, one, spend gas to drive there to get more gas to just drive back?
Yeah, your car's just stalling the whole time. That's awful. Communities up and down the New York and New Jersey coastlines headed home since Hurricane Sandy with one goal in mind: voting. For many people whose hometowns have been evacuated, whose houses were damaged by flooding or fire, or whose regular polling locations lacked electric power, this was an election day unlike any other. On Staten Island, voters trudged past the National Guard trucks with determination. In Long Beach, Long Island, where residents suffered some of the worst damage, voters withstood up to 5 feet of water to vote. The hardest hit locales, municipal offices, and ordinary citizens insisted not just on their right to vote, but to do so as close to home as possible.
After almost a year of campaigning, President Barack Obama has been elected for a second term, beating Republican nominee Mitt Romney and his running mate Paul Ryan with over 280 electoral votes. Right before the break of a new day, Obama secured the needed 270 votes for the presidency. With only 76% of the votes tallied, Obama had taken the White House for a second consecutive term. Some critics credit the victory to the claimed advantage of the Democrats of the Electoral College, commenting that it is an outdated system that does not properly reflect the views of the American people. On the other side, critics are saying that the college did exactly what they were intended to do. The victory for Obama was due to the many struggles during the campaign that he overcame. Most notable were the improvements in attitude and strategy going into his second debate, his assertiveness against claims from Romney, and his bold move to halt the campaign at the very end to deal with the struggling nation wrought with the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy. Critics of Obama are already commenting on the failure he will face in the next 4 years, but only time will tell how well America chose. Personally, I'm just happy that all of the Facebooking about this whole election is over.
I agree. Social media seemed to blow up. I think it's because it's our generation's first time voting in a presidential election, so this was huge.
I definitely agree.
We've been talking about the U.S. election, but another major power, China, is about to undergo a transfer of leadership, but it happens in a very different way. The Communist Party selects its new leaders behind closed doors, and the transition is carefully scripted with few surprises. But as Stan Grant reports, the process is not without obstacles. He walks us through the ins and outs of how China selects its leaders.
The Congress takes place every 5 years. There are more than 2,200 delegates. They come from right across China. They represent the regions and the provinces. They also are drawn from the People's Liberation Army, state-owned enterprises and financial institutions. It's their job to set the course, to set the agenda for the party, to review where the party is at, and of course, all importantly this year, to select the new leadership. The Communist Party is a very secretive organisation. The way that it operates is often very opaque. They don't like surprises, they don't like mishaps. This entire leadership change, the Congress, has been very, very carefully scripted, very carefully planned. Now, if there are not going to be any surprises, we know what is going to happen here. We know about the change of leadership. We know who is likely to be appointed to these positions. Very unlikely that we are going to see any shocks. Xi Jinping is still a bit of a mystery. No one really knows exactly what type of leader he's going to be. He's been quite cautious with his public comments. Over the past year, we have seen a little bit more of him. He's travelled widely and met with world leaders. He is someone who is known as a princeling, someone who is the son of a revolutionary hero. So he's very much steeped in the law and the history of the Communist Party. He is a son of the Communist Party. Every day when you open a Chinese newspaper, turn on Chinese television, you see the leadership. You see President Hu Jintao, Premier Wen Jiabao, and over the past year or so, we've seen a lot more of Xi Jinping as well, out meeting people, greeting world leaders, travelling widely. Very interesting, for a period of the year he vanished. He disappeared for more than 2 weeks. There was speculation about his health. Maybe he had a stroke, maybe he had a heart attack. Some even suggested that he'd gone on strike. There has still been no answer to that. It's very much a mystery as to what Xi Jinping is all about. But people here are very, very aware of him. And not just because of his political profile, but he's also married to a woman who, during the 1980s, was a very popular folk singer in China. This has not been smooth at all. Who would have predicted at the beginning of the year that we would have seen so much upheaval at a time of leadership transition? Bo Xilai, a man once touted as himself a potential future president of China, has been purged from the party. His wife is in jail for murdering a British business associate. Bo himself is now awaiting trial. Remember Chen Guangcheng? He was the blind activist who escaped house arrest, brought worldwide attention and fled to the United States. On top of that, the economy is slowing, the gap between rich and poor is getting wider, and there is more social unrest. All of this playing out at a time when they go through a generational change at the top of the Communist Party.
In other international news, dengue fever has become a global fear as it worsens in India. Because of the lack of care government officials are placing on the spread of the fever, it has the potential to threaten hundreds of millions of people all over the world. According to the World Health Organization's lead dengue coordinator, Dr. Valanudan, quote, "The global dengue problem is far worse than most people know, and it keeps getting worse. A disease caused by the mosquito bite was not seen as a threat until recent, when outbreaks began to occur in places outside of India, including Europe and the United States. There is even a reported case in Miami. Though it rarely is a life-threatening disease, dengue fever can be extremely painful. Indian officials are not taking proper steps to combat this epidemic. In hospitals, feverish patients are in shared beds, and facilities are basically overrun. Officials say that 30,000 people in India have been sick with the fever through October, and 59% more than last year. These numbers, however, can reflect the reported cases. The real numbers of these cases is said to be somewhere in the millions. Tropical disease expert Dr. Scott Halstead said, quote, "I think we're looking at 10 to 12 years before we can see an effective vaccine, and that's if we're lucky. In the meantime, we're in trouble." Causing a bit of alarm in other parts of the world now, the dengue fever may become soon a medical priority.
I think that's scary that 10 to 12 years for a vaccine, and it's already spreading.
And if we're lucky, I don't really know what's going to happen if it continues spreading like this.
Yeah. My heart goes out to India on this one for sure. This may not be the only health issue you have to be wary of. Over 25 million people in the U.S. suffer from chronic sinus infections or sinusitis. And although the traditional treatment is to prescribe antibiotics to fight the condition, health officials are saying we could be creating a super sinus bug resistant to these drugs. Why? Here's Susan Hendricks with today's Health Minute.
Dr. Subhanu Das is working to develop a nasal swab test that would identify the type of sinus infection a patient has, because it's information doctors really need. In most cases, patients suffer from periodic sinus congestion and pain. But when sinusitis is caused by a bacteria, the side effects can be devastating.
The bacteria can rapidly spread back to your brain or to your eyes and cause serious complications.
Traditional treatment has always been antibiotics. Now doctors are being urged to cut down on antibiotic prescriptions. That's because, according to Infectious Disease Society of America, about 90% of all sinus infections are viral, which cannot be treated by antibiotics. In fact, the medication actually rids the sinuses of healthy bacteria and strengthens the dangerous bacteria, creating a super sinusitis bug that can be treated by any medication.
The big problem in society is that doctors don't know which patients are going to have viral infections that are going to resolve uneventfully, or which ones have bacterial infections.
By knowing whether the cause is viral or bacteria, Dr. Doss says doctors will be able to prescribe the right medication in serious cases without creating a sinusitis resistance to antibiotics. For today's Health Minute, I'm Susan Hendricks.
On a lighter note, German immigrants to Namibia established a Windhoek brewery in 1920. This homegrown industry is now one of the Southern Africa's most popular beers. African beer is becoming big business for this small town, but alcoholism has also taken its toll on the small country. CNN's Robert Kernow reports.
Fine malted barley imported from Europe. mixed with the purest water from deep underneath the African desert, combined in a high-tech process to create some of Namibia's finest beers, brewed by Africans to an old German recipe. Homateni Kapawongolo works for Namibia Breweries and ensures it meets the strict guidelines of the centuries-old purity law called Reinheitsgebot.
We brew only with raw materials. We don't have any additives, so we basically consider or use malted barley, hops, and water. So there are no additives or anything like that in our product.
Listed on the Namibian Stock Exchange and partly owned by global drinks giants Diageo and Heineken, Namibia Breweries sells Windhoek Lager and Tafel Lager, which have become familiar brands in southern Africa.
If you look at the Namibian market, for instance, if I take our last financial year, we managed to sell just over 1 million hectolitres of beer within the Namibian market. Now, for a country with 2.2 million people, that is quite a lot. If I compare that to South Africa, where there's the population of about 55 million people, we've managed just below 1 million hectolitres.
So there may be business opportunities over the horizon, but Namibia's beverage industry may just be selling too much at home. Here in the poorer parts of Namibia, there's concern that alcoholism rates are just too high. And with youth unemployment estimated to be around 70%, according to some government statistics, there's also worry that poverty and a lack of opportunity are fueling a growing drinking problem. This vocational training school takes in high school dropouts. Teaches youngsters like Sophia to be bricklayers, plumbers, electricians. Life skills training is also part of the deal.
You are very important people in your society.
And trainer Webster Simasiku says that includes alcohol awareness.
Here they don't use alcohol, they abuse alcohol. Because once more it's wake up early in the morning, they just go to the road and start fetching one by one the bottle. At the end of the day, you forgot that you can go and look for employment.
The government's begun a campaign against underage drinking and also clamping down on shebeens, illegal roadside bars. There's talk of higher taxes on alcohol and banning some advertising. Namibia Breweries is also involved in campaigns to deter underage drinking, with the slogan, "Too young is too young." But commercially, it's looking to expand into new markets, in places like Zambia and Uganda, where you can order a cold Windhoek Lager. Robin Kerno, CNN, Windhoek, Namibia.
Way cooler than that last story, here is one that is sure to grab your attention. Robots do the darndest things. This one can hold its own at ping pong. Its table tennis skills are on the display at China International Industry Fair, held in Shanghai. The fair opened Tuesday and runs through Saturday. Also on display, a robot that makes computer mice. It is being hailed as 4 times more efficient than a pair of human hands.
More shocking news on the way. Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell are ready for a baby, and police arrest one of the stars of Avatar. Christina Mulcher has the scoop in today's Hollywood Minute.
There's a baby on the way for actor Dax Shepard and actress Kristen Bell. The engaged pair expect to deliver their first child in late spring, according to a rep for Bell. The 32-year-old House of Lies actress is said to be feeling great after reportedly having morning sickness in the beginning. Shepard and Bell began dating in 2007 and co-starred in the comedy Hit and Run earlier this year. Charges of disorderly conduct were dismissed against Avatar actor Sam Worthington Monday. Worthington was arrested after he allegedly used profane language and shoved a security officer at a popular Atlanta restaurant over the weekend. The security officer reportedly pepper sprayed and handcuffed Worthington until cops arrived. A police report indicated the Australian actor may have been intoxicated. Sharon Osbourne recently opened up about having a double mastectomy during an interview with Hello Magazine. The 60-year-old colon cancer survivor revealed she made the decision after learning she carried the gene that predisposed her to breast cancer. The TV host said undergoing the 13-hour operation last summer was a no-brainer. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Christina Muchler.
This isn't the only Hollywood gossip we have churning out of the mill for you today. Do you have a late-night TV fan on your holiday shopping list? You could give them a piece of entertainment history this year. Plus, a newcomer wrecks the competition at the box office this weekend. Elizabeth Corden has all of your entertainment news in this Hollywood Minute.
Late-night host Jimmy Kimmel is auctioning off his desk to raise money for the Superstorm Sandy relief effort. The custom-made Brooklyn-themed desk is signed by Kimmel, fellow late-night host David Letterman, and Comedy Central stars Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart. All three made appearances on Kimmel's show last week. You can bid on the desk on CharityBuzz.com. The auction closes November 14th. All the proceeds will benefit the American Red Cross. Friday night's All-Star Telethon raised millions for the Red Cross. Christina Aguilera, John Bon Jovi, Billy Joel, and Mary J. Blige were just a few of the celebrities who donated their voices to the cause. The one-hour show aired on NBC and on the network's cable channels. According to USA Today, it raised nearly $23 million. Wreck-It Ralph kicks off the holiday box office season with a bang. The animated flick took in more than $49 million in its debut weekend. Denzel Washington's latest movie, Flight, soared past the competition to clinch the #2 spot. Ticket sale totals hit $25 million. Argo rounded out the top three. The Ben Affleck movie continues to impress moviegoers. This weekend, the film brought in more than $10 million. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Elizabeth Corridan.
And for our last story of the night, we turn to more international troubles. A 48-hour strike is underway in Greece as the country's parliament prepares a new vote for a package of new spending cuts. Schools, banks, and government offices will be closed, and transport is expected to be at a standstill. The Prime Minister is calling for pensions and holiday bonuses to be cut, and tries to reduce Greece's debt and meet conditions attached to the new tranche of its bailout. Can you imagine having all of the financial crisis that Greece has right now and trying to cut back everything?
Oh, it sounds like craziness over there. I can't imagine that happening over here in the States.
I know.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this week. I'm Jennifer Keene.
And I'm Emily Crescitelli. Thanks so much for stopping by.